The Oracle of Luna is a podcast with me, Bridget Engels, as your host. Here we have conversations with real live, present-day goddesses who are actively and courageously doing their magical work in the world. Each episode is a bewitching journey with relevant discussions on topics such as Wiccan pagan spirituality, writing, culture, magical practices, art, ritual, and the craft in its many forms.
Merry meet! Welcome to another episode of the Oracle of Luna podcast. I'm Bridget Engels, your host, and today I'm so thrilled to chat with Laura Tempest Zakroff. Laura is a professional artist, author, performer, and modern traditional witch based in New England. She is the author of several best-selling Llewellyn books, including Weave the Liminal, Sigil Witchery, Visual Alchemy, and Anatomy of a Witch, as well as the artist and author of the Sigil Witchery Oracle, the Liminal Spirits Oracle, and Anatomy of a Witch Oracle. Laura is the illustrator for Llewellyn's A Witch's Ally Oracle deck written by Dodie Graham McKay. And Laura has a new book called Tarot by Tempest, Playing with Numbers, Meaning, and Movement by Llewellyn Books. Laura is creative force behind several community events and teaches workshops online and worldwide. Welcome, Laura.
Hi, welcome. Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, I'm so happy you're here. So happy you survived the blizzard too.
It has been an ordeal, that's for sure.
So how are you doing today?
I'm doing pretty good. We have actually some sunshine and some of those piles of snow are beginning to melt, and I'm trying to work on some projects. So feeling like finally getting out of that deep freeze.
Yeah, nice. All right. Well, if you're ready, we've got a lot to unpack here. So let's get rolling.
All right.
So I usually start out asking my guests, how did your spiritual journey as a witch begin? And what did that look like for you?
Well, the origin story, right? So I very very early on as a child knew that the standard typical religion just didn't mesh well with me. And I'd say I spent a lot of time outdoors, in nature, kind of making potions and doing little things, in the backyard, like you do.
Yeah.
And exploring. It was very much a nerdy kid, so ancient, Egyptian and Babylon and all of these old cultures and the deities and mythologies associated with them. So it was like around preteen to high school age when I discovered that there were actual modern day practices based on those beliefs and Western occultism and such, and that began the deep dive.
Did you grow up in the East Coast or?
Yeah, I grew up in the Philadelphia, South Jersey area for the first 15 years of my life, and then in South Carolina for high school.
That must have been an interesting cultural shift for you.
It definitely was, and that's how y'all became part of my vocabulary.
So when did you become aware that you had like creative and artistic abilities, and when did you become involved in dance as well?
So my parents sent me off to art classes around 3, so quite
Early.
young. Yeah. The funny thing is that it was the time of Mary Lou Retton and gymnastics and all that, and so I really really wanted to study gymnastics, and the instructor's like, your child is not coordinated, and again, like at 3.
Oh my gosh.
Don't expect much, but I think they were like, well, she seems to like art, so that seems to be safer.
Yeah.
And that set me on to more formal training all the way through grammar school to high school and to college. So visual art has always been a part of my life, though dance didn't happen until college.
Did you have any spiritual mentors on your magical path, or maybe people who influenced your creative abilities, maybe family members, or I don't know.
Well, my parents are both very creative people. My father, I grew up with him creating like dioramas, and he was an audiovisual specialist for most of the time I was growing up. So
Oh,
very,
great.
yeah,
Yeah.
very playful and creative. And my mom is an amazing craftswoman, uh, making all sorts of things. So I kind of grew up in that atmosphere.
Yeah.
But had a lot of really supportive teachers, uh, for art, especially. And then in college, I was able to do an independent study with Robert Matheson at Brown University, who at the time was in charge of the Russian and Slavic studies at Brown.
Mm-hmm.
But he was teaching classes like Magic in the Middle Ages and Women, Magic, and Power, and really great,
Oh,
really
those
great
are
topic.
excellent.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yes. So that really helped have a no nonsense and practical approach, uh, to, at least for in person, on top of everything else that I was reading at the time.
Yeah, that's so excellent that you had the creative mentorship surrounding you.
Yeah, and I feel like we find, or the people people find us along the way. Like we do run into the folks who are going to be pivotal and influential,
Yeah.
and think there are many folks who are beneficial to us and leave good vibes, and of course we'd have the the anti-teachers along the way too.
Mm-hmm.
But we learn something from all of those situations.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. So how did you start to weave your creative and artistic abilities in with your witchcraft? How did that all meld together or start to?
Well, I was using art, particularly in high school and college, to explore mythology, belief, spirituality, and eventually magic. Uh, I was always making up stories and illustrating them, in my head as a very nervous, spicy kid. Like, I'm just going to make up these stories and draw them at the same time. But it was in college where, as I was learning more about formal magic and cultism, witchcraft, and history and practice, that I thought, how can I really mix art and magic together? So I
Yeah.
began doing experiments of 2D pieces that were spells as well.
Oh, that sounds cool. And is that the time, kind of around the time that you started looking at tarot and tarot decks?
Yeah, so my the first tarot deck that I got, it was about 18 or 19. I was a freshman in college, and it very much influenced me into be like, oh, I can make one of these, because what is tarot but a collection of artwork, you know,
Mm-hmm.
myths and stories all put together. And I did create a major arcana set that was influenced by the Lady of Shallot, Tennyson's poem.
Mm-hmm.
So that
Mm-hmm.
was my first foray into making a deck.
Fun. Did the other students like it, and or your teachers or other people comment on it?
Um, Not that I was already I was a weird kid, it's like you're already
Yeah.
doing weird when you're the weird kid at art school.
The
then,
weirdest of the weird? Yeah.
yeah, it's just like, but like, pretty much folks leave each other alone. Like, yeah, that's weird. Good job. But the response from the pagan community was very positive. I did make a handful of those decks,
Oh.
because they were all through etching plate, so it was all hand
Yeah.
drawn and burned
Ooh.
onto an etching plate.
Mm.
Um,
That's a lot of work. Yeah.
yeah, it was definitely a lot of work. So maybe about a dozen decks got made, and I still have like a couple of them
Mm.
from that day.
Cool.
But I had definitely was going, oh, I'm going to make so many more tarot decks, and like brainstormed so many more in that time frame.
Well, you're obviously magical and creative. I love hearing my guest's path and how their evolution, how they started, and how they set upon their magical path. To me, it's fascinating and tells a lot about who they are. So, yeah, thanks for letting us in on that. So, tell us a bit about your new book, Tarot by Tempest: Playing with Numbers, Meaning, and Movement, and what inspired you to write it, and how does the reader work with your book?
So during the pandemic, I was doing a lot of virtual workshops. Sigil Witchery is obviously one of the most popular workshops, but I have like 2 dozen different topics. And I thought, I've been teaching tarot for a very long time. Let me try this as an intensive online and see what folks think about it. And it went really, really well. It was very surprising by the feedback, where especially since it was a wide range of students, from folks who are relatively new to folks who've been working with tarot for decades. And it was really encouraged to put it into book format, because they're saying these are things that nobody else is talking about.
Yeah.
This makes it so much easier. People were like, I've been trying to learn this for so long, and now I really get it thanks to your approach. And I'm like, well, that's it seems like a dumb moment. Of course I should write a book on it, because I've been doing this for so long. So that became the next thing.
Yeah, and you've been a tarot reader for quite some time, right?
Yes. So in college, I started experimenting and reading for other folks, and eventually started reading at some metaphysical shops. And then
Which
when I moved to
shops? I'm just curious.
Well, here in Rhode Island, there was a chain of stores called the Silver Dragon,
Oh.
which had the most amazing, beautiful silver jewelry. But they also had, books and statues and such. The one that was closest was in the Rhode Island Mall, which is no longer in existence.
Oh, okay.
As there's a lot of things in Rhode Island, like this is where this used to be. It's a common Rhode Island story. So that was one of my first like real pro gigs. The other one was at Estes on Thayer Street, which also is no longer in existence, and that has gone the way. And then when I moved to California, I was going to go work at a museum. Like, I'm going to get a museum job. And it
Right,
turned out
coming out
that,
of art school, of course,
right.
museum
Yeah, like, oh,
or a
it'd be
gallery.
great. Yeah, like this makes sense. But in the time that, I was only there for, just gotten there within the first week. And as I was trying to settle into the place and clean it up, um, went to explore some local metaphysical shops and walked into the Psychic Eye in Mountain View. And
Oh,
it's like,
yeah. I've been
yeah,
there. I'm here in Vegas, Las Vegas,
okay. Yeah,
and we're
there were like 2 or 3 in Vegas,
yeah.
right?
Yeah, and they just closed one, unfortunately, the big one. But anyway,
Uh,
the Psychic Eye. Yes, great store.
yeah,
Okay.
that was the instead of taking a detour, instead of going to doing museum, I was doing tarot readings and teaching full time, until that shop closed. I think it was 2004 is when the Mountain View shop followed,
Mhm.
by by the San Francisco shop. So
So you have a lot of experience reading for people and understanding people and their psychology, right?
yeah, especially with, when, I was reading in college, and you have a lot of young folks coming in, but also a lot of professionals in the area. And then the Bay Area, of course, is an incredibly diverse population. So
Oh
you
yeah.
had, you know, that time it was around the dot-com bust. So there was a lot of folks in technology coming in and wanting readings.
Interesting. Yeah, that
Yeah,
makes
pretty
sense.
much every major, tech corporation you can think of, I probably read for some of their employees or CEOs or such. Uh, to just all the folks who, come for tarot readings from all different communities. So it was a really wonderful learning experience
Yeah.
for the most part.
Yeah. So while you're reading for these people, were you thinking of how to grasp the meaning of the cards in front of you? Like, I'm just curious, what do you look at? Do you look at the patterns, the colors, the symbols, or the composition? I mean, as a visual artist, do you kind of go there first, or I'm just curious how you read.
So the first thing I look at is actually the numbers. So,
Okay.
to identify first, what do we have in major arcana and minor arcana? What suits are showing up? And what are the numbers? So part of what I talk about in Tarot by Tempest is that numbers have energy, and numbers also correspond to shapes and to movement and patterns. So when you see a spread that's a lot of fives, that can symbolize that someone is kind of stuck, that they're going around in circles, that they need to solve, what things are not working for them and break some of those habits. And you can see that both in, the major arcana from the Hierophant down to all of those individual fives, right? So that really, I think, helps set the mood. And then once you go to a deeper level and looking at the images and how, what symbols are portrayed, how are the people depicted, those also help tell another layer of the story. But if you've only got 15 minutes, for a reading for somebody, being able to look at those numbers real quick and kind of get a sense of what the rhythm is and where they're at in their life, it really helps clear a lot of things up quickly.
Yeah, I try and do a tarot reading for myself each Sunday just to kind of set the tone for the week ahead. And I was looking at your book and I started to look at the movement part. Can you expand on the movement part? Because I was kind of having a hard time with that. I mean, I was standing up and I was doing some movements, but it didn't really integrate with my spread. So I'm just curious, can you talk about movement?
Yes. So it's best looking at it first as an individual card, especially with the major arcana, right?
Like
Because you have
like an
such
outcome, the outcome card or
well, so the outcome or whether you're just working with the deck, right? Like,
yeah.
so if the magician comes up and you stand in the position or sit in similar into position to the magician with the as above, so below, and feel
Mhm.
that posture, um, or the collectiveness of the high priestess, or the way that the emperor sits squared, taking a moment to meditate and to feel how that energy is present in your body when you assume that pose can unlock the meaning or the feeling of that card. Whether it, depending on where it is on a spread, say if you're pulling multiple cards, if it's the outcome, be like, what can this also teach me? And see what your body responds to, because we have a habit of dwelling too much in our heads.
Especially when you don't really know what you're doing as far as reading tarot's
Yes.
card.
Yeah, like we haven't we really often, like, I think, I do this tarot team up as a monthly event here in Rhode Island, and really have to urge the folks, please don't immediately go to the little white book. And look at your cards. What do the cards say?
Yeah.
What do you feel? What positions, like, just take a moment to let your intuition develop, because your intuition is most likely going to be right. But we live in a society that tells us not to trust our intuition and also not to trust our bodies. There's a reason why these particular poses, the directions that bodies are facing, have meaning and power to them. So it's not so much dancing, dancing the cards
Yeah.
to figure out the
Okay.
solution,
Okay.
but it also helps you notice where there are similarities. So I just taught a workshop at Sacred Space Between the Worlds this past weekend,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
where we did a sample spread, and in part of that spread, two of the cards that showed up was, I think it was the Page of Cups, and it was the World card. I think three pages showed up, so there was a lot of page energy. It was one of the pages and the World card. And after doing some exercises, and we're looking at these cards and realizing that there was a lot of similarity between the position of the figure in the World card and one of these pages.
Oh,
And its
okay.
position in the spread, I think the World card was the overwand, but it said, like, it gave you a clue of, this is where you can get that release. This is where you can get that balance. This is where the secret is diving into a little bit more about what this message the page is bringing to you and how that can get you to the world. But otherwise, like, most people wouldn't be able to not even look at the figures and what they're doing in the cards.
Yeah. I usually look at the colors and the composition and
Mm-hmm.
just go with a gut feeling, really. Very,
Yeah.
very gut and very intuitive, but I like what you're doing here with the poses and the body position. That's very interesting and unique.
Yeah, and of course those colors are going to give you a lot of information too, right?
Yes.
And the hidden
Yes.
symbols. And what those colors mean are really heavily dependent on who you are in your own experience, right? Because colors are very culturally oriented, as well as your personal experience with those.
Hmm.
And I love when people notice things in cards. Like, you can have a deck for years and you pull a card and you're like, since when was there a cat in this card, right?
Or a rabbit. What? I never
Right.
saw
Yeah.
that.
Like, I never noticed all these sunflowers. Where did they come from? It's like, it's what we notice when we're in that state of mind. And I think getting into our bodies a little bit more also helps us spot those colors and symbols and patterns, because we're really perceiving more than trying to overthink.
Yeah, and it's very subjective. wouldn't you say? And depending on what deck you're using too, you can really
Absolutely.
have extremely different readings. But yeah, I love this book, Tarot by Tempest. And also, I just want to deviate just a little bit because I had Dodie Graham McKay on my show a few weeks ago. And Laura is also the artist and illustrator for A Witch's Ally Oracle deck. Do you want to talk just a little bit about your creative collaboration with Dodie on this? I have the deck and the colors are so vibrant and there's so much movement and there's Sigil Witchery involved. And how did that all come about?
So Dodie and I have been friends now for I think almost 10 years.
Oh,
Uh, and
that's great.
yeah, and I was honored to do the cover for her book, A Witch's Ally. And
Right.
at one event, I was like, oh, if you ever want to make an Oracle deck, I know a guy, right?
Yeah.
And so, we pitched the idea to Llewellyn, and they said, yes, let's do this. And it was a really wonderful process. As you know, my other decks, I am the artist and author of the other decks that I've done. So having Dodie provide the written descriptions and kind of lead where the cards were going to go really excited my design brain. Uh,
Yeah.
yeah, because I've done a lot of graphic design, freelance design over the years, and some things can be really easy, or sometimes it can be like pulling teeth. And with Dodie, it was so smooth, and we were so much on the same page, where we're just texting back and forth. Where I'm like, okay, you've got the rabbit card. You say black and white rabbits. Are they black rabbits and white rabbits? Are the rabbits black and white? Yeah, and, just being able to play back and forth
Yeah.
and get to that. And I think every single card that I came up with, Dodie's like, yes, so it was really smooth and easy and a lot of fun.
Oh, yeah. I play with this deck quite a bit outside by our pool, and I just love the colors. I was an art student myself in San Francisco, and I love color and texture, and that's kind of what my eye goes to. But there's something about the vibrancy and the movement in this deck and your art that is just so stunning. So I just
Thank
love it.
you.
Yeah, it's beautiful. Before we run out of time, do you have any upcoming workshops or events or books or anything coming up? I'm sure you do.
Yes, actually about to release on Kickstarter the deck. It's actually a pair of decks, and it's called the Lantern New England Folk Oracle, and with La Panthère Studio, who's also did the Southern Gothic Oracle and some other fabulous projects.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Because I had, a couple years ago, I realized that New England doesn't have its own themed Oracle deck, and there's so much history and folklore here. So that's and it's very niche. So I didn't want to be able to, kind of Llewellyn with that. I was like, let's do a, small independent woman-owned press, and so that's about to happen. So
Cool.
that will probably be live when this comes out. And then event-wise, I'll be at PaganaCon in Minnesota. I'll be at Mystic South in Atlanta, Temple Fest in Massachusetts,
Mm.
and Changing Times, Changing Worlds in Connecticut in November. So that's just some of the big events, but there's a lot of small things that will be happening as well, or not as big events and conferences.
Ah, that's so great. And do you read tarot or what do you actually do at the conferences? Are you leading ritual or
Mainly doing either ritual or doing lectures and workshops and classes.
okay.
So yeah, I don't often do readings in public anymore for folks. I'm kind of got to the point where I will see a friend and be like, "Hey, it looks like you need a reading. Let's talk about this." But for on the larger, more public scale, I've got so much going on with when teaching and making art and such that's like I have to
Yeah.
conserve my energy and kind of funnel it to where I think it's going to be the most beneficial.
Yeah. Do you do art every day? Are you committed to doing like a certain amount of artwork like daily? I'm just curious.
No, I
Or whenever the whim strikes you.
Yeah, I definitely like to do kind of little runs of art. Like I back in the fall, I went to Santa Fe, tried to get out there once a year, and came back, and I think put out about like 7 paintings in a month. Uh, or actually more than that too, because I was just so inspired. But
Yeah.
often I'm doing projects. So like right now, I just finished the land section of the lantern deck, and I'm working on the sea deck for because I'm a dork. So with the reason it's called the lantern it alludes to Paul Revere's Ride and the lore of
Mm.
one if by land, two if by sea. So the first deck is land, and the second deck is by sea.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah,
That's totally historical for the New England area.
yeah, like it's on brand, but it also makes me giggle a bit. So right now I'm very much immersed in finishing up the C deck, so that it'll be ready once the Kickstarter's already, you know,
Mm. Hmm.
funded and gone through. But for my daily practice, it's very much, as long as I've gotten everything else done, um, sometimes it's about movement and playing with dance, and sometimes it's going to be writing, but art is always my happy place.
Yeah.
So it's just
Yeah.
have the time
What's
and the space.
what's your favorite medium? Do you use acrylic or oil for coming up with concepts of your oracle cards or?
Mainly mixed media. So let's see. Out of the decks I've done, the Witch's Ally and Liminal Spirits were both done acrylic on wood.
Oh, cool. Wood. Nice.
Yep. I love smooth wood surfaces, and the Anatomy of Witch was done on watercolor paper with watercolor and ink. And the lantern deck is mixed media, so those have watercolor, gouache, ink, colored pencils. It's a lot. There's a lot of stuff.
I love the varied multi-layered textures and colors that your visual style. Just beautiful. So thank you so much for being on the show. Do you want to tell our listeners where they can find you? Are you on YouTube? Do you have a website, social media?
Yes, thanks. I have my website is lauratempestzakroff.com, which can get you to a lot of different places. But you can also find me on YouTube as LTZ Witch, which has like 6 minutes of witchcraft as my little thing, as well as the witchual workout. So folks who want to get more into movement, there's like 150 of those to explore, and on the other social media networks around.
Perfect. Well, thank you so much for coming on the show and chatting about your multi-layered, multi-sensory approach to tarot and your new book, which is fabulous. Again, for our listeners, it's called Tarot by Tempest, Playing with Numbers, Meaning, and Movement. And thanks for inspiring us with your holistic approach to creativity and magic and how you weave your witchcraft together with your creativity. Yeah, I really honor you and am so inspired. So thank you so much for being on the show, Laura.
Thank you so much for inviting me. This was great to talk with you.
Yeah. And thanks to all our listeners for joining us today. So until next time, blessed be. Bye bye.